What's going on, everyone? Investor here. Today we're going to talk about how you can take one share of NVDY and turn it into just over $4 million. But before we get into all that, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss any new content, because today's video is going to be fun. So NVDY is one of YieldMax's ETFs. This one has been out for a couple of months now. Many of us are familiar with it. Maybe many of us aren't. YieldMax has put out quite a big, extensive line now of ETFs, and they all promised, well, I'll say all, majority of them promised to have these big distribution rates, such as this right here with the 40.36 distribution rate. And this is kind of middle of the road for some of the ETFs that YieldMax has put out. So one of the ETFs that it's kind of poised to make a lot of people a lot of money. However, there are some catches, there are some things that may not be for all investors. So if this is something that you've been looking at or something you want to invest in, please do your own research. Please don't take anything that I'm going to share in this video as financial advice. This video is really just for fun and to let the imagination run wild as to, what could be possible. There's going to be a lot of things working against it, and we'll cover that later in the video. But first, I wanted to get into what NVDY is, just so that you have a brief history or some brief knowledge on what this ETF is actually all about. So NVDY is the YieldMax NVDA Option Income Strategy ETF. So it has to deal with NVIDIA. But this fund does not invest directly in NVIDIA, and investing in the fund involves a high degree of risk. And what we're looking at here, guys, just so you're aware, this is the YieldMax's main web page. This is the front page. You just pick whatever ETF you're after, and this is the main front page of their website. So this is a single issuer risk. Issuer specific attributes may cause an investment in the fund to be more volatile than a traditional pooled investment, which diversifies risk, or the market generally. The value of the fund, which focuses on the individual security NVDA, may be more volatile than the traditional pooled investment or the market as a whole, and may perform differently from the value of the traditional pooled investment on the market as a whole. The fund strategy will cap its potential gains if NVIDIA shares increase in value. Essentially, this and many of these other ETFs like this can only provide so much. They're capped basically from the option contracts that they sell. So this fund strategy is subject to all potential losses if NVDA shares decrease in value, which may not be offset by income received by the fund. The fund may not be suitable for all investors. So even on their own webpage, they're telling you that this may not be suitable for all investors. So again, please do your research. The stuff I'm going to show you is just for fun. And if you're familiar with this format, I have put out a couple of videos like this before. These are just some things to kind of get kind of the creative mind going on things that could be possible. So scrolling down on the main webpage, you'll see they've only got the past couple of months worth of distributions because this is a newer ETF. So you'll see each month, ranges anywhere from we got 67 cents all the way up to 95 cents. So this does change. It is variable. So it's kind of tough to plan what you're going to get one month over the next. But currently it's sitting at a 40.36% yield. So, but again, that will change every month. Depends on where the stock price goes. So the fund overview. The YieldMax NVD Option Income Strategy ETF, or NVDY, is an actively managed fund that seeks to generate monthly income by selling and writing call options on NVIDIA. NVDY pursues a strategy that aims to harvest compelling yields while retaining capped participation in the price gains of NVIDIA. The fund's primary objective is to seek current income. The fund's secondary investment objective is to seek exposure to the share price of the common stock of NVIDIA Corporation, subject to a limit on potential investment gains. So again, it's just the option contracts. These things are only going to make so much money. So if the share price rises above the contract, you're not going to see any of that excess. You get what the contracts or what the fund was going to provide. So a few things to keep in mind with this one here. So you've got your NAV, your net asset value, at $20.13 a share. You'll see the closing price as of the time of this filming was 3 cents under. So you're going to see potentially and probably a lot of NAV erosion. I mean, the price is going to come down. So in my view, stocks like this or funds and ETFs that are similar to this, a lot of people are investing in them essentially to get that dividend payout. Many of these aren't going to be viewed again, in my book, as growth stocks, because for the first little while, these are probably all just going to go down. And so you've got to do your research, more or less time it right, or you're playing off just the dividends. So another big thing with these type of funds is going to be your gross expense ratio at 0.99%. Very high, very, very high expense ratio for an ETF. So keep that in mind. However much money you make from these, you're going to have that fee associated with it. Other fees you're going to see, we'll talk about in a little bit. You're going to have some taxes you're going to have to pay. Depending on your brokerage account, you may have brokerage fees. You're going to have, different things to offset the income that you would potentially make off this. So the figures and the numbers that we're going to discuss is without any of the fees or penalties or anything like that, such as the gross expense ratios and that stuff. So keep that in mind. And you'll see just where we're sitting here. We've only been out for a couple months, so we haven't hit the 6-month time spread yet, just because it just hasn't been out that long. So anyway, that's just a brief history on what NVDY is. Obviously, it correlates with NVIDIA, and so they sell the option contracts off of the NVDA. So again, 40.36. Let's jump over to the calculator. We'll get into the fun stuff. I'm sure that's why many of you guys are here. All right, so market beat calculator here. This is free to use. Just Google market beat, and you can find it, and you can set these parameters however you want. This is just kind of how it is at the default. So to start out, you can type in your stock that you're after, or you can choose not to put anything in and you can just use generic numbers. It works either way. So there's some of these fields that you're going to have to change. So it is an individual stock. Distribution on these is monthly. You do get paid monthly. You always want the drip on these to be yes, because we're going to want to reinvest our dividends back into the stock. That's kind of how this works. So we're going to start with the one share, and it defaults at the current share price, or the 2048. Annual contribution, let's say you're able to do $100 a month into this fund. So $1,200 a year, right? Tax rate, all that's the same. You need to change this to the 40.36 for your dividend yield. And we'll just leave the 3 and 3, and we'll do 20 years. So just think in your mind real quick before we look at it, what do you think it's going to be? So you hit the calculate dividends, and let's see the magic, right? $4.238 million, right? So total return of 17,000%. So you'll be making just over $2 million in annual income, of annual dividend income on this. So again, one share could potentially turn into $4.2 million. Now again, let's focus on, okay, we've got this figure here, but now we're going to have taxes to pay. You're going to have the gross expense ratio to pay. You've got some other things that are going to happen that could detract from this. Let alone, is the fund going to exist in 20 years? Who knows? Again, this is just for fun. If it does, great. If it sustains itself for 20 years, awesome. Then there's a good chance that you could be making some money. Again, these are just the what if factors, guys. These are for fun. So, if you think, hey, maybe it'll be around for a year, I'll invest for a year. So great, let's see what the year does. All right, so you've got your first year with your one share, annual dividend of $8.27 a share. So after your first year, you're already going to own 58.28 shares. With the appreciation of the stock price kind of thing, you're going to be up to $1,229.58. So you'll own 58 shares just after your first year. Okay. So if you go down to year 2, you're going to start with that 58 shares, work your way across. By the end of year 2, you'll have 136 shares. You'll already be making $500 in annual dividend payments. Many of us would love to make $500 a month. So again, you don't have to stick it out for the 20 years. If we wanted to come down, you're going to start your 20 years by having, we'll call it 82,000 shares. You're going to finish with 114,000 shares, and you'll be making $1.1 million in dividend income potentially. And so there is some potential, but again, guys, there's a lot of things working against it. So this is just for fun, just to show you like what could possibly be done. NVDY, it's a new fund. It's going to have some new challenges, different things that you probably haven't been accustomed to, but there's a potential to make some money. But again, do your research. This is just for fun. NVIDIA, I don't see as NVIDIA itself going anywhere. So it could be a good opportunity for NVDY to be around for a little bit longer. It all just depends on the fund and the fund managers and how this thing is managed. So again, guys, ending balance $4.2 million from one share of NVDY. It could be possible. This number here is going to come down. And like I've talked about in many of the other videos, even if it performs at, 25% that, right, that's still $1 million. How many of us, wouldn't want to make $1 million on one stock, right? So just for fun, but there you have it. So one share could potentially be $4.2 million, minus some of the other things, but a good opportunity to make some money. So give this video a thumbs up, guys. Hit that subscribe button. We will catch you on the next one. Happy investing.